A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, the Mandalorian continues his quest to bring the child to its rightful people. However, some bumps have occurred along the way, I should say. A giant spider has attacked the Razor Crest. The New Republic comes in, saves the day, only to let Mando go without letting him helping hand. And the journey continues with the Mandalorian and the child here on Fake Nerds Watch, episode 3 and 4 of the Mandalorian. I'm Ben Magnet. That's Brandon D. McClure, Ryan Idiopolis, and Spark Liddy.
Hey,
More Star Wars in our life. Star Wars is back, guys.
Star Wars is back, and Lordy, is it glorious?
Most of it's glorious. Yeah, most of it's glorious.
I really liked episode 3. I don't know if it's my favorite episode of the series yet, but I think episode 1 is still that of this season. Sorry.
Yeah, I will say
chapters
11 and 12.
What are we on?
Chapter
11 and 12.
11 and 12. It's weird because the episode, they numbered the episodes so weird because
they did the good place thing, and the good place, whenever they did a new episode, it just continued chapters, and like the last episode, like chapter 50 something, because that's how the episodes
yeah,
work.
it's because it's like Mandalorian's being treated like a book.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So
I quite liked episode 3. I thought episode 4 was just fine.
So episode 3 is the Heiress.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And this is where we get to see my beautiful Bo-Katan, played by Katie.
Yeah, this is very, very cool. Rumored for a while, wasn't sure if it was real. Very real, which probably confirms other things now. But yeah, I thought the Heiress was a. I saw on Twitter that somebody said it was a live action Clone Wars episode, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I saw it, I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I like this. I could. Some people are mad that it seems to be taking the Mandalorian into a bigger direction as opposed to like the small scope it kind of was. And I don't have a problem with that. It's Star Wars. It's all connected and blah, blah, blah. That's the world we live in. So,
yeah, if you think about it, because Star Wars, it's like this big giant thing. And so, I mean, don't get me wrong, having the smaller stuff is great. Like that one episode 1 on Tatooine, awesome episode. I absolutely loved it. But episode 3, where they brought Bo-Katan, the other Mandalorians, and also answered that one question that we had at the very start of the whole series, is like, wait, Dave Filoni, you did a lot of great Mandalorian stuff in the Clone Wars. How come this Mandalorian is different from those? Now we know.
So I think real quickly, I want to touch on both of those points that you brought up, Ben. I want to talk about what Ryan was talking about, how people are complaining, not really complaining, but like worried about the bigger direction the Mandalorian is taking. I think because of the fact that he is a Mandalorian and the Mandalorians have had a large role in the previous TV series, as far as the greater galaxy is concerned, I think it was inevitable that he would tie in with what's going on with the rest of the universe.
I think that was inevitable to us. I was going to say the same thing. But because when we were watching season 1, we were talking about this. We were talking about, so this is obviously a different faction of Mandalorian from what we know from the Clone Wars. And we talked about that, like how we weren't sure what it was, if it was classism or what. But now we know. But we were expecting that. But there's a lot of people like Megan who haven't watched Clone Wars or Rebels and don't or just watch the movies, and they don't know that Mandalore is more complicated than Boba Fett.
Yes,
and Boba Fett. Yeah, and so like that's why I think there's a lot of people who watch Mandalorian who aren't aware of those things because they never watched the cartoons.
Sure,
and they're coming to this and they're going, oh, this is becoming a way bigger thing than I thought it was going to be. And I get like being put off by that, but like it's been there the whole time.
Right. Real quickly, I do want to mention, Ben, you are having construction on the top of your roof.
Yeah.
So if there is noise coming from your screen, that is what that is. So
I am sorry.
No, it's fine.
I was just farting.
And then the other thing that Ben brought up is that Bo-Katan's people say that he's from the Watch. They don't necessarily say it, but I think we can extrapolate that was born of the Death Watch, which was Maul's segment of the Mandalorians. They took over from Vizsla, Jon Favreau's character.
Yeah, well, he wasn't born of it. We know that because he's a foundling,
right?
But she calls it the Watch. The other character, you said his name. He calls them religious zealots.
Yeah.
So they're a cult that wants to restore old Mandalorian way.
Mhm.
And that's more or less what we were suspecting. We were also talking about, like, we had ideas that maybe it was a class thing, you know, because we do know that Bo-Katan and her Mandalorians come from like high Mandalore with the Duchess and all of that. And
Ritzy.
we thought that possibly what we're seeing with the Mandalorian was like a lower working class kind of thing. It's not so much that as much as it is a cult of belief about what Mandalorians should be.
The armorer, if you guys remember, has horns on her head, helmet, which might have been our first clue that they were Death Watch, because the Mandalorians that were under Maul sported his horns on their helmets after he took them over. Even going back so far as when we see the Clone Wars, when they find Din Djarin, that armor is what Favreau's clan was wearing at the time. So, you know, it was always there. We just, you know, we were speculating that having that confirmation is really neat.
Yeah. I don't remember what we said in season 1, but I think we mentioned that there were ideas that it could be that, but we never said like specifically, oh, this could be the leftovers of of Death Watch.
Yeah. Needed more info.
But
obviously that was a really nice lore dump to get in this episode. I know us specifically have been waiting for that for a while. So getting an answer of, hey, this is going to get addressed. There are two different kind of belief systems around Mandalorian. And I'm like, great, that's awesome.
And it's nice that even Din himself doesn't know that.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool that he's like discovering stuff about his own people, that he's like, oh, I don't know everything like I thought I did.
This does speak to a lot of like, I kind of want to get this out of the way and then we'll talk about like, you know, the episodes and stuff, but this was very much a crucial answer to things we were talking about in season 1, which is that Din is likely, like we talked about why Din is always going to have his helmet. Why would they cast Pedro Pascal as him and all that? And I'm like, I do think eventually we're going to get to a point where he starts taking it off because he's going to break away from, you know, like the ultimate path of his character on the show is going to be kind of like finding his own way away from this cult belief system of the Watch and figuring out who he is, not part of that
as an individual.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And like kind of probably meeting Boba Fett is going to have something to do with that. Meeting these other Mandalorians is going to have something to do with that. I'm really interested at some point for us to learn more about when and where the Beskar tradition came from, because that's not like, that's not high Mandalorian tradition.
It's also a new development for Star Wars, because it's with like, it was developed for Mandalorian, right?
Right, but if like it's like an old way kind of thing, and like why did main Mandalorian stop caring about that? Because who doesn't want armor?
The best armor
that
in the
works
world.
really super good.
Yeah.
Well, in Rebels, there were, when we go to Mandalore and the Rebels, we learn that all Mandalorian armor is passed down from generation to generation. So, and it's molded throughout to fit the next person that holds it. So what Bo-Katan is wearing, what Sabine Wren was wearing, those were armors that their ancestors wore hundreds of years ago that just kept being passed down through generation to generation. Right. So I guess it was always Beskar in that situation, but we never learned about Beskar until now.
Yeah. And maybe... And last thing on that, like maybe because it's been passed down for generations, maybe like having to like reforge it over time, it loses some of the Beskar over time, so it just becomes naturally less durable than its first.
That's what I was going to say. Is like I'm kind of interested to learn about that, because if we watch the cartoons, if we look at Boba Fett's armor or anything like that, if that is Beskar, it's certainly not as powerful as not as durable anymore as the Mandalorians is.
Yeah, they're getting shot.
That's why in the crucial scene in this episode, when he's able to get them to the bridge, is because he's the only one who can go into that hallway and not be totally overwhelmed by the shots. Yeah. You know, he does get knocked down to the ground, but he can get a lot farther than the rest of them.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean is I'm interested in like, where does Beskar wear down over time, and that's why it doesn't work that way for other Mandalorians, or we do know that it's also a finite resource and hard to come by, and did they eventually just have to swap it out? Because even if they're how much, because what you're saying, like generationally passed down, how much of the armor had to start being added with different kind of materials just to make it work, because of how much got blown away and how much of it is really Beskar anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Ben, you've been trying to say something?
No, mostly just an anecdote, because even watching episode 4, seeing the stormtroopers get shot down, but then remembering from episode 8 with Captain Phasma Because I feel like Captain Phasma's armor is a form of Beskar as well. I know it's a different section because she gets shot and laser blasts just like bounce right off of her.
That's a good point.
She has it's some stupid name like carbonium. It's like it's another super tough metal that only she has.
Yeah,
that like I think in the books they go into.
I read somewhere it was like a quick little anecdote, and I was like, oh, that's neat. That Phasma's armor was crafted from the hull of Palpatine's yacht.
Yeah.
Oh,
Palpatine because Palpatine had a space yacht that Lando robbed, and they made her armor out of that.
That's a Charles Soule comic.
Yes, it is.
The comic.
So the other reason why I was bringing up, like, I just don't think that at least the majority of the galaxy must not think of every Mandalorian they pass by as wearing Beskar armor. They don't judge it that way because nobody's trying to cash the other Mandalorians for the armor to sell it.
I got it right here
to break it down.
So yes, Ben, you were right. The armor is salvaged from Palpatine's ship. It is called chromonium, and it is almost indestructible. So there's another adamantium.
I will say,
it's adamantium and vibranium.
I will say chromonium is a much better word than carbonium, which is
yes.
what you said.
I was close.
No, I get you.
Ryan,
does sound better.
Yeah.
Ryan, the way you said it reminded me of regular show when they go like ham boning.
Oh yeah. At least it's not adamantium, so that's okay.
Yeah.
So let's get into the episode.
Yeah.
Real quickly, I wanted to say, like, I really love it when Bo-Katan takes off her helmet and Katie Sackhoff is there, and Dane's like, "You're not Mandalorian. How'd you get that armor?" I like that kind of like twist of like, you wouldn't do this if you were a Mandalorian.
Yeah, it's a really good way to finally have brought some acknowledgement between those two factions. This is the most I think with this episode is the most like connected to the larger world of what we've seen established in Star Wars that I felt. Yes, we've seen Boba Fett's armor. Yes, we've had allusions to like all these other things, stormtroopers, all that.
This is direct.
But this feels like not just like direct reference, but it feels like it's actually playing in the sandbox of the world that was already built before it.
Mm-hmm. Right. So what do we think about Katie Sackhoff returning?
I mean, I'm really happy for her. That's awesome.
It's cool to see on Twitter like people who love and know that character like immediately before she even took the helmet off knew it was her just because of her voice. Yeah, that's like so cool that like just like fans like if you stuck with this character like you get your happiness.
I was freaking out while we were watching it.
Yeah, it was really cool. I mean, like I watched it, like I like the character, but I'm not like I'm not in love with her. But to see that character in live action form cements that character in a way. It's like, oh yeah, they do care about this character.
I'm really glad that she's playing her. I do really like all the people like posting up the pictures of like her during Clone Wars to her in Mandalorian, and then Obi-Wan Kenobi during Episode 3, and Obi-Wan Kenobi post Mandalorian.
So either she's like insanely young in Clone Wars and Rebels, or she just ages like a fine wine because that lady's supposed to be like in her 50s, and like I don't care, it doesn't bother me at all.
Hey, we don't know how Mandalorians age.
It's true.
We don't.
It's true.
Hey,
and the funny thing is, Boba Fett's younger than her and looks way worse. Which is also a really funny thing.
Boba Fett's not a Mandalorian.
No, but he's a cult. No, that's true. Yes, that's true.
Do we know? I don't remember. I really don't remember. Do we know if Jango Fett was Mandalorian and left?
That was
he just took the armor.
So in Clone Wars, and a little bit in Rebels, but mostly in Clone Wars, Obi-Wan says Jango Fett is Mandalorian or something like that, and the High Rule is a Mandalorian. It's like, no, he's not. I don't know how he got that armor, but he is not a Mandalorian.
He's a thief.
Okay.
It's like a Qui-Gon Jinn Episode 1. Maybe I killed a Jedi and took it from him. Maybe he
killed
it.
But the other thing is, like, are they lying?
That's the other thing. We speculated about that when Boba Fett was in this, was going to be in this. Would they retcon that idea that maybe Jango is Mandalorian, or maybe he was just a foundling?
Or just like abandoned it all or something.
Or he just got excommunicated from the way.
Yeah, something like that. I'm sure when Boba Fett shows up in the series, we'll get some answers, but until now, we only have what we know to work off of.
Yeah, solid point.
He's been hanging out in the desert for 20 years. Like, what a poor guy.
Also, that ages people. Look at Obi-Wan.
Mm-hmm.
He was in the belly of a monster. Like that could have aged him like 1,000 years.
You are under 2 suns rather than 1, so that's gonna wear on the skin.
It's gonna hurt your skin quite a bit.
Like, yeah, you're right.
So we go to a water planet in this episode. I forgot the name of the planet.
Trash.
Trash.
Oh, trash. Yeah.
We got Mon Calamari.
Yeah.
Got a beautiful sweater.
Yeah.
He's just like, yes.
I just
we
love
got-
how he's just like he's just looking at the Razor's Crest and it's all beat up, and then they're
Oh my god, the Razor Crest falling and then just poof into the ocean. It's so good.
Okay. Real quick though, like I really like the episode. The ADR on the dude who he talks to about fixing the ship, like right after
His very quiet
they pull it
voice.
out, like that's real bad ADR.
He was
Yeah.
so
It
quiet
didn't
and
even
bad.
look like it matched the dude talking. I'm like, I know he's in like prosthetics and everything, but I'm like, what?
We've had plenty of dudes talking in prosthetics.
Yeah.
This episode was directed by Bryce Dallas Howard.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did great.
She did.
Yeah. I have to admit, I love this episode of hers a whole lot more than the first one she did in season 1.
I agree.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that the episode she directed in season 1 was a bad episode.
Which
It's
one
just
did she in season 1?
it's
The trench one with the ATST, with Cara Dune's
Oh.
introduction.
Cara Dune's introduction.
Right,
With, like the village. I thought
Right.
that episode was totally serviceable.
Directing wise, I thought that episode was good. My problems were all script related with that episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
This whole
whereas-
season again is just much tighter, I think.
Yeah, whereas this one with where I mean obviously where they go in the water and they're like he tries to get the information from the best for like, hey, where my other Mandalorians at, and they try to oh god, just
A frog lady's reunion.
Yeah, that was those creatures look so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I really like. I rewatched this episode this morning. Those creatures look so good. I can't get over it. I think they look great.
Yeah.
not trying to eat the
They would
eggs.
look terrible if you tried to make them talk English, but like otherwise, I think they look fantastic.
Yeah.
The way they work around it in episode 2, where she takes the vocabulary, vocalizer, or whatever it's called, worked very well.
Yeah. I really, really liked. Yeah, I really like the look of them. Honestly, a lot of the prosthetic work throughout this episode is really good. You got a lot of the Mon Calamari. You got the squiddy faced people.
Squid dude.
Yeah. They all look really good.
Yeah.
Like
No
this
Gungans.
was no Gungans.
Yeah, no good.
I love just spending a little bit of time on a boat.
Yeah.
I know we're not there for long, but I liked it. I'm like, this is just refreshing.
Again, like we have an episode that was like, okay, so this is our actual Western episode, and then we got a horror episode, and this is like, yo, we're a bunch of pirates. This is a pirate episode. We
the
got
pirate
pirates.
episode. Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my god, it's perfect. And you got the squid guys just acting like pirates. And I'm like, man, this is just so fun. Like this is the season 1 I wanted, really. Like,
Second,
doing everything right.
dude knocked the child's pram over the water into the water, and Mando, and then just rushes in, and they're like, haha, the best. So going to a point earlier that I want to say Sparks mentioned about how come other people aren't hounding Mandalorians with like more armor. I want to say, and this is going to sound silly, but it's because Mando's is more shiny that they know it's more durable. It's practically brand spanking new. So they know it's like, oh, this is new Beskar. This is worth a whole lot more than that guy. I'm gonna go after.
I think there's something to what you're saying. I do think that they target Mando's armor because it clearly looks like pure Beskar,
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
whereas the others don't.
Right.
I agree with that point. My only reason I mentioned that was because I purely as a question of still like old Beskar. If all the armor is Beskar, you'd think that if it is such a valuable and finite resource, that people would still be hunting the other Mandalorians for it, and wanting to take it. And we don't really see that ever or hear that talked about, which makes me think, that's just my point, is just that makes me think that they know that it's not really all Beskar. Probably most of it isn't at this point.
Yeah. Also, he's like a new guy in town. Like they probably don't feel as bad.
Yeah, I feel
like-
like they can take advantage of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not knowing
Like,
who.
oh, here's this dude with a little kid. Let's steal this shit.
Yeah.
I really like the whole shipfaring scene. I really like the inn. I love the way they do the chowder. That is the hose that they just bring over.
Oh yeah.
Saying that everyone's got to eat food isn't such a small recourse. Is like the kid.
Seats are scarce. You got to eat if you're sitting here.
Also, and like again, like we had like a whole documentary about like the making of the first season and like the volume or whatever. And again, this huge ass practical set that looks like it's on the ocean. I'm just like, I'm glad they didn't feel like they needed to be truncated to this new technology again. Like they gave the show the budget, and I'm like, the show looks so good. It still looks so good.
What's really cool is that they can use the volume to make the ocean. So you get the light from the ocean coming into the cameras instead of VFX. And then you build the set around inside the volume, and it makes it look larger. That's what we talked about in the first episode, where you use the volume as an enhancement rather than a crutch, and like it's beautiful.
It's like really like it's really impressive.
Yeah,
and like especially like in the time of COVID, like man, like what a cool way to make movies. You don't need to go to space. It's just right here. Like it's amazing.
Yeah. The aerial sequences in space are the ones that really shine when it comes to the volume, because those can finally be shot practically rather than on a green screen.
You got a dude just sitting in a thing with the green, like the volume around him, like yo, that dude's in space.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
That's so cool. That's really cool.
Okay, so
we need Sasha Banks. She's quiet. She doesn't say a lot this entire episode.
She eats a tentacle.
She eats a tentacle.
They have to get on a Imperial ship, an Imperial starship that's about to take off.
Yeah, so that he'll get information about, because they save his life because he's threatened, and then Bo-Katan's like, so what's up? What's the deal? And he's like, well, I gotta take this little guy to the Jedi, and she's like, what do you know about Jedi?
Yeah. We don't use the J word.
And then she's like, okay, well, I'll tell you about Jedi if go help
me steal this big ass ship.
Yeah,
like, she wants to steal it.
Stuff.
She wants to steal it, and specifically, if you've been following this character, she wants to steal it because Gideon's got her sword.
Yeah,
right. That's some good shit.
Yeah, and
she wants that sword
by the end. If you didn't know, you get it by the end that she's after the Darksaber.
He's got something of mine.
Because she's still, and this is a holdover from Rebels. The Darksaber will unite Mandalore under one banner, and that was always the case from Clone Wars to Rebels. That's why Sabine gave the Darksaber to Bo-Katan, because Bo-Katan is the sister to the last person to rule Mandalore. She is the one to rule Mandalore under the Darksaber, and I think that is so cool that we're seeing that plot thread carry over into the show.
And like eventually we're gonna have to get an answer about how Sabine ended Rebels with the Darksaber and now doesn't have it just a few years down the road.
Man, that means
did Sabine have the Darksaber at the end of Rebels? I thought Bo-Katan did.
Did she give it to Bo-Katan at the end?
Yeah, that's like the whole thing. Is like, I'm giving you this because you're going to rule Mandalore.
That's right. Yeah. Man,
I haven't watched the end of Rebels in like 4 years. So.
That's fair.
That's true. I did watch it like last year.
Yeah, I haven't watched it in a long time.
Yeah, that's more fresh in my brain. Yeah. Oh man, that's gonna be like a sick and sad flashback, maybe. Of what's going on? How she lost it.
Didn't we think that Sasha Banks was going to play Sabine? Wasn't that the rumor?
That was the rumor. Yeah. She only had a few lines in this episode, and they weren't. She's a wrestler. A lot of wrestlers try to become actors. I thought she was fine. She didn't really. She looks cool as hell, and she can do her own stunts and stuff. But like as an actress or an actor, I'm like, she's fine. Whatever.
Yeah. Clearly not Sabine.
Not Sabine. No.
Right. Their whole attack on the Imperial ship. We get that actor whose name escapes me, but you know the guy who's playing the head of the Imperial ship. And he does a good job, and they're doing their whole thing.
Yeah, that guy.
And they get trapped in it's like, we trapped them, sir. Where did you trap them? In the cargo control room. Where?
In the where?
Yeah.
That's so good.
So yeah, they want to steal the stuff.
They
from
said
the
they
ship.
wanted the weapons, and then they decide they want the ship,
right? Because
they're changing the deal, and Mando gets pissed about it, and and she throws that snide, "This is the way."
That's so good.
Sorry, I had to step away.
You're fine. We're talking about Mandalorians being cool, stealing ships. So so now we're gonna steal the ship. And like, this is a big ship.
Yeah,
this is a big ship, you guys.
Okay. It's the ships from it's the ships that carry the TIE fighters. It's the type of ship that carry the TIE fighters, but outside of the ship, so not in like a cargo bay.
Yeah.
Right.
That was cool.
Sequence of them going into the ship and stealing it, and of course with that one actor who I know I've seen him before, but I just don't know his name.
Yeah, we just did that.
Like him. So like when he gets the transmission from Moff Gideon, and he's telling them what's going on. And Gideon's like, you know what you need to do. I love how both the pilots who are piloting the thing are like,
Oh, he has the Empire's equivalent of a cyanide pill.
Electroshock.
Yeah,
I was wondering if that was going to happen, but I didn't think it was going to be with like that. I thought it was going to be like a cyanide pill. But that's a cool.
They're like, no, this is Star Wars.
Yeah, we got to make it electric.
Got to make it extra.
Just the fact when Gideon is telling this Imperial remnant of long live the Empire, and he knows what he has to do, or he knows what's about to go down. He's like, F it. Long live the Empire. So it's like, whoa, these dudes they have no chill.
Well, I think we get more of this. Sorry, Brian, go ahead.
These are the guys who stuck with the Nazis after the Nazis lost. So they are the worst of the worst.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're irredeemable. These are the worst bad guys.
We don't have a lot of this in canon right now, but we're starting to kind of see it with Star Wars Squadron, Star Wars Battlefront 2 had some of this. Star Wars, the next episode that we'll talk about, these people that are still in the Empire are more fanatical we've ever seen the Empire. Because like Ryan said, they are the people that, hey, the Germany is no longer controlled by the Nazis. These guys still sided with the Nazis.
Yeah. They just can't. They're just like, no, maybe the evil emperor had some good ideas, you guys.
Yeah.
I'd love to see in like a scene, just like one scene with Moff Gideon just like doing a pass by thing. No, Paul Blackthorne's character from the Battlefront 2 campaign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So apparently, Iden Versio, the actress, Janine Ivankar, whatever her name is, she's in these episodes. She's in one of these episodes, but only as a cameo as a voice, not as her character from Battlefront. And when people so she said she was going to be in one of these episodes, and people lost their minds, you guys. Man. And then they said, "Oh, here I am," and it's just like as a cameo. And everyone was like, "How could you do this? How this is how you do it."
We'll talk about it a little bit more in the next episode, but this is kind of the thing that I've always wanted to see explored with Star Wars since we started the sequel trilogy. What happened after the Empire fell? Who stuck around? Why? And why did it fail? Yeah. Because we know it fails, and 30 years later, the First Order rises from its ashes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always kind of curious because, like, we've seen the Empire is scattered. If you're in Star Wars Squadrons, like there's different people being like, "No, I'm going to control the Empire. No, I'm going to control the Empire." This is now the story of how Moff Gideon tried to be like, "No, I'm the ruler of the Empire." Yeah. So very interesting stuff that we're diving into. That may or may not, we'll get into the next episode, but may or may not tie into, sadly, the Rise of Skywalker. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Gideon's like breastplate when we see him, like when we saw him at the end of season 1, and even in the next episode of this season, it does look very Vader-ish, or at least Death Trooper-ish.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And we'll talk about that at the next episode too. Yeah.
So let's wrap up let's wrap up this episode 3, with
name drop.
With the name drop to end all name drops, Bo-Katan says you need to go find Ahsoka Tano.
Yeah. And I'm just like, well, what's up, Rosario Dawson? I guess I'm seeing you soon, right? Like, damn.
Yeah.
I really didn't expect, like, and it's not even a big thing. Like, I know what the next episode's name is, so like I might know if she's showing up or not. But like, that's really cool. That's really cool. Because that's a character that like doesn't need to be super tied to this and just can show up for a bit and give some information, and it makes sense why she would be there at this time.
Yeah,
it's not just a cameo, kind of like Bo-Katan. Like it seems like it's like
she is the only Jedi that Bo-Katan knows is still alive.
Mm-hmm.
So like it would make sense that she would be like, yeah, go to this person you want to find Jedi, find her.
Because you can't go to Ezra.
maybe she's hunting for Ezra.
God, gotta be. Oh,
so it's 10 years after we know she went looking for Ezra, right?
Oh,
is that the end of Rebels?
Aren't we 5? We're 5 years out from Return of the Jedi. So how far is?
Okay, so no, yeah. So it's 5 years after.
Okay,
so it's 5 years after she started looking for Ezra.
Yeah.
So maybe she found him in that time.
If she did, I want to see that story.
Listen, it's not going to happen. But I'm saying, what if it's like we show up on a planet and then it's like Ezra's just like chilling there, like, "What's up, guys?"
And Ezra's just gonna be like 5 years older than he was where we ended.
Wait, isn't Ezra in the unknown regions with Thrawn?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
That's what we're talking about. Like, what
yeah.
if that's where she went to go find him?
So Ben,
That's
just
fun
to
speculation.
catch you up, at the end of Rebels,
Mhm.
Sabine and Ahsoka, and the Rebels ends after Return of the Jedi. The final scene of Rebels is after Return of the Jedi.
Okay.
Sabine and Ahsoka go off to find
There we go.
the son.
Yes.
Go off to find Ezra because they think that Ezra is still alive.
Okay.
Ezra is hanging out with Thrawn with like these giant space whales or something. Remember, like the Force whales?
Yep, the Force whales.
Star Wars is cool, you guys.
Force whales?
Yeah, Force
Yeah.
whales.
Don't worry about it, man.
Okay, so I started Rebels. I haven't finished Rebels, but I'm
Not
Oh,
only
okay.
Force whales, Ben. Whales that can travel through hyperspace.
Well, and I mean, like, and the other important detail is if she hasn't found Ezra yet, is Sabine still with Ahsoka?
Yeah.
Bing bong.
because didn't they also say that Sabine? There was a possibility of Sabine being in Mandalorian.
We thought it was
What?
Sasha Banks, but it's not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we thought it was that other Mandalorian lady.
But
Right.
the end of their stories were in the same point, and they were together. So it's
Okay.
who knows?
I mean, if
I
anything,
doubt it. I doubt it.
If
I doubt we'll
anything,
see Sabine.
it'll be a thing like, oh, Ahsoka's like, this is where I am now. Sabine's doing her own thing somewhere else, and she can be next season or whatever.
I do think that there is some, and I guess we'll find out after this after the next episode because I didn't think that episode 4 would be Ahsoka. I thought the one after that would be.
Yeah.
But I do think that shortly after that episode airs, we're going to learn if there's a new Ahsoka animated series coming
Oh yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah,
or something.
or something.
or
with her.
something. We've heard rumors for years of a follow up to where Rebels ended. I think that they were waiting for this episode of Mandalorian to end. I think it's likely that we're going to find out soon.
Okay.
And like, what is going to happen with the child?
Man.
Yeah.
Like, what is the end goal for that? Because it
Are we
like
gonna
it's
find
gonna.
a
I
bunch
know
of
like the
Yodas?
fan base is going to be like, you can't separate them, but at the same time, it's like, okay, but the whole point is get him to Ahsoka, and Ahsoka might tell him somewhere else to take the child. Then,
That's what I'm assuming.
but wouldn't
Yeah.
it make the most sense for Ahsoka to take the child?
Yeah. Train it.
kind of at this moment, the most reliable person
Also,
to train.
Ahsoka definitely knew Yoda, so
Right.
this is gonna.
She's gonna know.
So
Yeah,
she's
this
gonna
next
see
episode,
baby. She's gonna see the child and be like, "This is Yoda. This is
I-
Yoda's species."
I would have loved it because Bo-Katan knew Yoda too. I would have
Yeah.
loved it if Bo-Katan was like, I think it looks awfully familiar.
Is that you, Yoda? Yeah. Because like it's not like you see many of those little guys often, right?
Yeah.
Man,
Like
that's gonna be
we
interesting.
blew Ben's mind in the last episode. We've only seen 3 of them.
Oh yeah, with Yaddle.
With
So
Yaddle.
what if
What if Yaddle's in the show?
No, I don't think
No,
so.
no, no.
My because I think we talked about it in the first season of like the Yoda species and like what they'll do with that. Now that we're getting here, what if it's that he is the last of his kind, so this keeps him with the Mandalorian for the rest of the show? Ahsoka's the one who tells him, I don't know how to tell you this. The last one of them died 10 years ago,
But I
Or
would
whatever.
still like I understand like this is what will happen.
Yeah.
He will stay with the Mandalorian because that's the show.
Yeah.
But if I'm thinking about it logically, I'm like, no, he would stay with Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Everybody would agree that makes the most sense. She's more powerful than him. She knows the Force and he doesn't.
she's probably chilling
She understands what he is and
Yeah.
what he's connected to. It wouldn't make sense otherwise.
somewhere. Unless they kill
So
her.
I'm very interested in what the logic is going to
No,
be
yeah.
for her, for the child not to
Because
stay with her.
he's a daddy now. I don't
Well,
know.
I wonder. I don't think it is that Yoda species is dead, but I do think that they don't know where Yoda comes from, and
Yeah.
it could be that Ahsoka's like, you could try to find his people, bring him back to his people, and that becomes the show trying to find out where the species comes from.
Yeah.
I get that and I agree. And I still would sit there and go, he could do that and still leave the child with Ahsoka till he does.
Yeah.
That's my only point is that
Yeah.
I'm like, it starts to break the bonds of like what's sensible
They need
to
reasons.
make the show
Yeah.
keep being the show
That makes
Yeah.
because everybody still wants the Mando with the child. And I'm like, but But does it make sense after that point, once he's met Ahsoka, for the child not to be with Ahsoka?
We don't know, like, dude, like, for all we know, Ahsoka could be in like a Last Jedi situation, like where she's not in a good spot. Like, we have no idea.
No, for sure. I'm sure there will be a plot reason.
Yeah.
I'm just really curious how they're going to finagle that, and I hope it's done well.
No, I agree, because now that you say that, like, yeah, she's like the last ultimate Jedi. Like, why wouldn't you give it to her? Yeah.
As far as we know, Luke and Ahsoka and Ezra are the only 3 Jedi left.
And even then, Ahsoka's the only one who has complex understanding of the old Jedi way, even if she doesn't agree with all of it. She's the only one who really gets it.
And Leia. I forgot about that little fun bit at the end of Return of Rise of Skywalker.
Well, but I would argue, is Leia a Jedi?
She's training at this point.
She's a Force user, but is she a Jedi?
Like her father.
So I want to ask, before we move on to the next episode, we see Bo-Katan again before the season's done, right?
Yeah,
I hope so.
I suspect so.
Probably at least one, kind of like how last season was. We got introduced some characters, then they showed up again in the finale. I assume it's going to be similar to that in some way.
Yeah. She needs to get her sword back.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next episode was chapter 12?
Chapter 12, episode 4.
The Siege.
So I thought, just by seeing the title, I thought we were going to go into like more of the history of Mandalore, because it was going to be called The Siege, and we're going to talk about the Siege of Mandalore. Maybe
the Siege of Mandalore.
But then it wasn't that, and it's just like, we're going to attack an Imperial base. I'm like, that's cool, that's fun.
Yeah.
Should have been called A Siege instead of The Siege.
Yeah.
Well, every single episode, they have the name with the word "the" in front.
No, I get it. My point being that
there's a siege in
the
Star
siege
Wars
for a Mandalorian means a very different thing.
Yeah.
Very.
Gotta wait.
This episode is pretty light on developments, but we do see at the end what Moff Gideon's plan is for the most part.
Yeah.
Multiple plans, multiple things going on in this base.
We get Cara Dune back, and we get
Carl Weathers.
What's Carl Weathers' name? I never remember.
Is this Carl Weathers' directorial debut? Or
it's Grief. It's Grief.
Grief. You're right.
Grief something.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's his debut, but he did direct this episode, which is radical.
Yeah. So Moff Gideon wanted. I love this. I love this so much. Moff Gideon wanted the child's M count.
Yeah, midichlorians.
No, thank you. I immediately was like, I see you, Filoni, but I do not raise you.
Hey, Filoni is the only person that made midichlorians make sense. So
that's fair.
I didn't hear the line M count. I didn't catch that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, it's midichlorians, Ben.
He's got the child has an extremely high M count.
To be fair, I think that this will ultimately pay off better for people. I think, if I'm to guess right, that even if they get a high enough midichlorian count, it doesn't, like, it's not for one for one the Force like they think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's ultimately going to make it like, hey guys, midichlorians don't exactly work the way that, like, everybody was wrong. They don't really work with the Force sensitive stuff the way we thought they did.
If they and
they're going to invalidate it.
If they debunk it, that'd actually be pretty dope, actually.
But we know that Baby Yoda is incredibly powerful with the Force.
Right. Yeah.
And he wants to make, so Moff Gideon wants to make Force, what looks like Force sensitive troopers.
Or a Force sensitive Snoke.
Or Snoke.
So Brandon, I was on the same theory as you, but though I do not think the M count stuff is also tied to those troopers. I think those troopers are just like a type of defense, because those are from video games, like Dark Forces from like the 90s.
Right, but those are Force sensitive troopers in that video game.
No, those are robots. So if they do something different for the Mandalorian, then that's something completely different. But from the games, those troopers are like cyborg robot people.
But we see those people. We see the same Kaminoan people, humans that aren't Kaminoans, but they have the outfits. So whatever they were doing with the child is related to what those troopers are, because we see them working on those troopers.
Yeah. Okay.
So it does have something to do with cloning, though. We do see the tank looking awfully Snoke-like, unfortunately.
Yeah, there was a bald dude in there with some gross growths on there. if you guys want to try to fix your bullshit movie, that's cool. But
so here's the thing that makes me think it's probably Snoke related or Emperor Palpatine related, essentially, which is that when they come into the room, the two Imperial dudes are like, destroy it, and they destroy the information about it. I'm like, I don't know if two dudes would be so committed to doing that and knowing they'll die for doing it, unless it had to do with the Emperor specifically.
Right.
Yeah.
So in the novelization of The Rise of Skywalker, which, you know, if it's not on screen, it's not canon. But what we know of that moment is that the clone of Palpatine was the first clone of Palpatine was created before his death in Return of the Jedi, and he transferred his Force consciousness there. So if that is to believe, then there is already a Palpatine clone on Exegol.
Sure.
I
mean, it makes sense.
No, I didn't know that part, Brandon.
Yeah.
Oh no.
He's already there, baby.
And just have survived the Death Star explosion.
I'm just ignoring it because I just it's too much.
It's too stupid.
It's too
I
much.
know. I get it.
I will, if this is their way of like, yo, we were trying to replicate him and we made a Snoke and blah blah blah. And like, fine, whatever. I just kind of wish it wasn't a Mandalorian. Like episode 3 world building, we're like bringing in Bo-Katan, Mandalore stuff. That's cool. Please don't bring in Rise of Skywalker stuff. That is not what I want.
The fear that I have is that we're seeing the beginning of the First Order, because obviously we're seeing the beginning of the First Order because that's what the end of the Empire was. But at the end of this episode, we also see that Cara Dune is quote unquote recruited into the initial what would become the Resistance.
Yes.
And I forgot my train of thought. Never mind.
I don't necessarily mind that because we got to see how things are built, but like just starting.
I remember.
Go ahead.
Whatever Moff Gideon is doing has to fail because it takes them 30 years to build up the First Order.
Okay, so I just want to point out something about all of this, which is that we all, regardless of how we feel, we all have to accept Rise of Skywalker as canon.
Yeah.
It is the eventual canon. So that means that the things that they say about how the First Order and Snoke were created are true, which means that, and I'm being honest, probably the way the First Order comes about is basically that Snoke, who is a Palpatine stand-in, eventually goes, I think the galaxy can embrace us a lot better if we just change our name. Look, I'm being honest.
No, it's true.
That's really simply probably the answer.
It's a rebrand.
And that's unfortunate, but that's the answer they made. And so I don't think it's going to be as big of a deal of like the failing of the Empire in 30 years as much as it is like, hey guys, we're the First Order now. We're not like the Empire. We're the new Nazis. We believe new things.
Listen, we
that are based in the old things and look very similar.
We look like the Empire, but we're not the Empire. And we do things like the Empire, but we're not the Empire. So don't treat us like the Empire.
So basically, don't expect a good answer about why the Empire failed, because it really didn't. Ultimately, what they proved is that the Empire was always the First Order.
Yes.
And all it did was change its name. So there is no major failing. What he's doing now, that's First Order plans too.
It's because of that too. Like the people in the Empire are directly in the First Order.
And that's shitty, but that's what it is. So the best we can hope for, because really all it is, that rebranding is just propaganda to get new people on board. That's it. That's it. All we can hope for is that Filoni will make the breadcrumbs that can lead to that stupid justification
really good,
better.
Yeah.
And so like it feels like an inevitability in some way. Not necessarily on Mandalorian, but somewhere along the line, we knew we need to get material between the two that starts to go, well, this is what they were doing, and yeah, Snoke is a thing that's going to happen.
But my whole thing about seeing some things that could eventually become the First Order is that we're so far away from the First Order's rise. Ben was just born. Rey won't be born for another 10 years. Starkiller Base is still Elam.
Yes.
We don't have a lot there.
No, I get your point, and my point was less to say like it's not important to think about the two things as separate anymore. They're the same entity. They're the same entity with a different name. So even though that will be like First Order stuff, First Order official stuff, when Snoke actually is the leader of the First Order, everything the Empire is doing now is building to that, because all they do is eventually change their name to make it work with their plans. That's my point. So this isn't First Order stuff. This is mid-Empire stuff that will become the stuff of First Order when they change their name. And so yes, we're going to see the breadcrumbs, because breadcrumbs because they are building to that, and we don't know when Snoke ascends, when Snoke's doing his thing.
That's a good point.
All that stuff.
That's a very good point, because Snoke could be quote unquote born now, and then it will still take him the decades that he needs to build the First Order, but it's still the Empire.
Right.
He came from the Empire. That's actually funny that I've never thought of it that way. There's it's the same thing. They just rebranded. That's literally all it is. Like half the people in the Empire are the First Order.
We wanted it to be a different answer about how it happened.
Yeah.
The Rise of Skywalker cemented that. They just changed names. Like that's and their look. That's really all that happened. So they could get new recruits, and that's it.
And then the final order.
And look, it really I do think in this episode specifically, there's a good counterpoint to like why that happens. Like supplying why does First Order rebranding work? It's because you've got people on Navarro like Grief who are saying very publicly, I don't even understand why the Republic wants to stick its nose in the Outer Rim. The Empire couldn't do it. What makes them think they could do better? Yeah. And I actually think that's a really good point.
Yeah.
I think that brings up a really valid point, which is like, you know what? The Republic probably never gets going again because they don't know how to handle the Outer Rim. We know the First Order gets its clutches onto the galaxy by coming from the Outer Rim. There's too much disorder out there. It's much easier to stay united in core systems. But the Outer Rim is far too vast and spread out and tired of Republic rule, then tired of Empire rule. I mean, we get this. These are colonies essentially that have been left to their own devices. This is Puerto Rico out in space is essentially what it is. And it's like you want to call us part of the United States, but what do you do for us?
You have the First Order basically on the outskirts, and they're building in instead of outward. So then when you build your giant army, they're surrounded.
Right.
And that's actually really smart.
Yeah. And I think it's a good point. And I think it is just a failing of the Republic to actually grasp that. That is what Mandalorian is exploring in small moments with those kind of details, is that this is all happening because they all think that they need to control rather than establish separate systems that they can communicate with and trade with and work with, but not try to control.
This is the good talk. This is the good Star Wars talk, you guys.
Anyway, I thought this episode overall was okay.
Can I tell you guys, that blue guy, I don't like the blue guy. And I didn't like him in episode 1, and I didn't like him in this episode. I don't find him funny or endearing. I thought he was mostly annoying. He's the only character in this entire show that I don't like. And I think that's just me, but I just find him irritating.
He has only one line that I laughed at in this whole episode, which was, why don't they have guardrails?
Yeah. I found him to just be like a hindrance to everything else happening, to be honest. I mean, I don't know why they brought him back.
I found the relationship between him and Grief, where Grief is just like constantly
mean to him,
holding his debt over him to make him do things. I'm like, I don't know. I don't need this.
No.
There was a lot of confusion. I mean, I agree with you, Ryan. I don't like the blue guy either, but at the same time, it's like, dude, you don't have to be like that mean to him. You don't have to be like, hey, get your ass over here, or hey, hurry up, open the door.
Here's the thing: you take out the character of the episode, it changes nothing.
Right, for real. And then you just get that have the characters talk to each other more instead of just yell at this random guy. Yeah. I'm like,
yeah. Hey, it's really sucky that Cara Dune's a well-written character because Gina Carano sucks.
Yeah, she kicks ass. She's like a great stunt woman.
That opening scne, where she takes out all the guys. Yeah,
it's really cool. I'm just like, wow, I'm glad. Like, you look so cool here, and then I just go to your Twitter, and I want to punch you, and it makes me sad.
Yeah.
It's a bummer. She beat me up way harder though because she's real strong.
Right. It's a shame. I agree.
We also get a return of Mr. Kim from Kim's Convenience.
We do.
Yeah, as straight up just a cop. The guy calls him officer, and I'm like, wow, they're not even trying. That's hilarious. I
really like that. That's kind of like, I mean, what do you don't call him pilot?
No, I know. It's just I don't think I've ever heard that in Star Wars before. It's like, okay, sorry, officer. Like he's an actual cop.
No, yeah, it goes back to that. Like this very much fits in. Like I really like Grief's assessment where he's like, why
this isn't
why
Coruscant.
are they policing? Why are they policing us?
This isn't Coruscant. That's such a dope line. Yeah. Yeah, that's the stuff I love about Mandalorian. It's all the outskirts stuff, and
Did you guys catch the IG statue?
No.
There's a statue in Tomorrow City for IG-11.
Oh, that's so cute.
I didn't see that.
Pay attention to it. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's great.
One thing
to be fair, I didn't see it in the episode either. I saw it on Twitter later, and I'm like, oh, that's real neat.
That's nice.
One thing I did like gave Cara Dune some more character development is because I'm pretty sure we don't find this out in episode or season 1, or I could be mistaken, is that she's Alderaanian.
No, we knew that.
We knew that.
Never mind.
Yeah, we knew that.
Yeah,
It's
still nice. It's still nice. I still like the moment where he says, "I served during Alderaan. I'm sorry." Like that's still a nice thing. Like treating Alderaan like the Hiroshima Nagasaki kind of event that it would be in Star Wars, where like you lost a really important planet of people.
Yeah.
That's really cool to get any kind of acknowledgement of galactic trauma.
Yeah.
Is really nice. But we did know that. I still think that was a good moment. I'm glad they took the time to have that exchange, especially with someone who is somewhat disillusioned with the good of the rebellion.
Yeah.
After the Empire's downfall.
Well, what I like about Mr. Kim's inclusion, and I forget his character name in this, but he says, there are people out here who don't think this is over.
Right.
And if you're, maybe we have people like you who help us out. Should we be right?
Yeah.
And
I
again,
like
that's
that.
This is a very like positive moment for the the Republic right here. But like I like throughout the show again, like the New Republic isn't shown to us as being like the high and mighty, we're the best people in the galaxy. Like when they deal with the Mandalorian, it's a little like hazy as well. And I'm like, it's always from like it's not always from like the good person's perspective. It's from like a neutral perspective, so you can get both sides of the character. That's
what we get from a lot of the books that were set before Force Awakens. Bloodlines has a lot of this of like, the New Republic really tried, but they let the First Order just do whatever they want and said, you know what, they're not bothering us, so screw them.
Yeah,
and they didn't check in on them when they should have, and Leia knew that, and Leia said,
it's like World War I and World War II. It's crazy.
We need to, and Leia knew that the First Order was going to be a bigger threat, which is why she left the Senate. One of the reasons why she left the Senate and made the Resistance, and Mon Mothma knew that too, which is why she funded the Resistance through which got the Republic in trouble with the First Order. This is why Force Awakens was so cool when it first came out, before they shit it all out for the Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree.
And like I'd like to believe that there's going to be some, like, they're on the right path with the way that they talk about the Outer Rim versus what the new form of the Republic is trying to do.
Yeah.
And it is something that's like, this is the whole thing in like politically that Brandon loves. This is the whole thing in Star Wars, is that
this is my jam.
The reason it falls apart in the prequel trilogy is because ultimately they care more about what's in the center of the galaxy than what's on the sides.
Yep. And
because they don't go out there and they don't take care of them. And this is a universe that has space travel. These people can leave to less desolate planets. The reason they don't, they can't be sustained on those planets. There's nothing for them. No one's taking care of them. So they're just stuck out there, abandoned. And that's why there's so many people who join the Separatists at first. That's why the whole Civil War works. That's why people are convinced that the Empire at first is a good idea. That's why some people still believe the Empire is a good idea.
That's why when Palpatine was like, I'm going to restructure everything to be an empire, and the Senate was like, cool.
Yeah, and Mandalorian's been putting that out there from the beginning, because we got Herzog in the first season who says, do you think what's happening right now is better? What's out there, this is better than what the Empire was doing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it, it's nice to have that idea explored. I hope that's something that they keep like putting the nuggets in of, like, maybe the idea of trying to incorporate the Outer Rim into a united front and just like taking care of them when you can't actually reach them isn't a good idea.
I can't tell you how bad I would just want I was gonna say HBO Max, but they have Disney Plus. A Disney Plus, like Game of Thrones, just political Coruscant show. That's just an hour-long West Wing drama, just about the New Order, and the New Republic.
I see you, and I want to raise you, the like activist Coruscant journalist who makes a documentary about the Outer Rim during like talking about the way that the prequels ended all the way up to where they are after the Empire's fall, and how that all came about politically, and like talking to people from the Outer Rim and from the inner systems, and showing like essentially the Democrat versus Republican mentality.
Guys, enough pillow talk. Let's just talk.
No, see that idea is way too good for Disney to ever do.
God,
there's a dope speeder chase. I love seeing old school speeders.
Oh yeah, they take the turret tank thing.
Yeah,
that's a good chase.
That was a good chase.
They make the speeder bikes into the most BMX I've ever seen speeder bikes go.
Oh man, there's so many good moments in the chase, like when the speeder bikes dive down, like two of them crash, and the TIE Fighter versus the Razor Crest is a really cool sequence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That guy that just like goes off the edge and just wrecks his speeder on the side of the mountain. It's like, bro.
I always love a good shot. It's mostly because this is like, like a space travel fantasy shit. It's normally horses when you see like people going over a hill, but like there's the shot of like when they're going down the mountain before they crash, and it's just like all one shot. And I'm like, yeah, give me that. It's so good. I like speeders a lot. Like I love that Return of the Jedi forest chase so much. I want that.
Importantly, kind of tied to what we're talking about, the Outer Rim is establishing its own ways to take care of itself at this point.
Marshals.
I wanted to bring this up because, yes, we have marshals, but also in both that place on Tatooine and here, it's referenced that there are schools.
Oh, yeah.
That they're creating their own education systems, which is really important because those things apparently didn't exist before.
Yeah, you got a protocol droid, yeah.
And that's really important, too. So, it is kind of bringing to light a lot of self-sustaining ideas.
Yeah. You got
brought to the Outer Rim.
That is such a good point that you brought up. So after Rogue One came out, there was a lot of talk of like, how did the Empire turn people's opinion on the Jedi? And one of the things was that in schools, they taught that the Separatist leader was Mace Windu.
Right.
Oh shit.
So a lot of propaganda ended up going into the schools that were on the core worlds, and they talked a lot about the schools in the core worlds. And we knew that the Outer Rims had we know that the Outer Rim thought that Jedi were myth anyway, because they barely saw them. So that didn't really help. So now seeing these protocol droids doing schools on the Outer Rim with the Rey buns, I hate those buns. But it's really interesting to see that maybe these protocols are teaching them what really happened in the New Republic before it fell, what the Empire was doing, like what the Empire expunged away of what was propaganda, what was the real history of going on there. And the fact that it's a droid means that it could be impartial.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of interesting, like how the Outer Rim is rebuilding as a society that it just couldn't under probably both the Republic and the Empire, but specifically now in the aftermath of the desertion of the Empire, because the Empire was always kind of just raiding the Outer Rim more than anything for resources, and that was kind of it.
Like Vikings. Yeah.
They didn't offer them any support though.
And as Ben was, I'm sure, about to say, Baby Yoda's very adorable in the school sequence.
The macaroons.
Those were just macaroons.
The moment the kids got the cookie packet down there, you're like, oh, he's going to force take those for sure.
The space macaroons. Yeah.
Although there is one thing I want to bring up. That so in episode 3, he gives the child to the frog people to watch over. But then of course,
thank God that ended well. Oh my God, I was terrified.
Yeah, I thought he was gonna like eat all the kids.
Well, once they were born, he's like, oh, they're living.
Yeah.
Oops, you done goofed, Baby Yoda. But so like Mando just gives him he gives the child to the frog people. He's like, okay, cool, stay safe, watch him, and all that stuff. But then in episode 4, when they're like, hey, we'll just leave the kid here at school and then we'll talk business, he's like, no, wherever I go, he goes. I'm like, what?
I have to imagine it's because he trusts the frog people more and there's only 2 of them instead of leaving him full of school, full of a bunch of random people where anything could happen. I guess.
That actually brings up a good moment that I wanted to touch on. I really like as soon as the Mandalorian realizes that, Moff Gideon, like the thing was 3 weeks ago, Moff Gideon is alive, which is something he didn't know coming into the season.
3 days ago.
3 days ago, right? And so like he's like, I need to get off this planet. I need to get the kid.
Right.
Yeah.
I really like that kind of urgency of like, I need to go.
Yeah, I like that too. I would basically.
I was gonna say, okay, and then we get that one mechanic who gives that long look at Lando. It's like, oh, you're someone we're not gonna like later, are you? Yeah. Turns out, spy for the Empire.
Yeah. What were you gonna say?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I would basically say Ryan's point, which is that I think he's less okay with leaving him in a school because there's more people around. There's less people for him to trust. Like, it's not like leaving him in a home with two people that he knows are not just trustworthy, but kind of indebted to him for their safety of their kids. And like our parents, which means there's automatically more care there. He's leaving him in like the stead of a school of strangers, and that's like a different mentality.
Also, like the Empire's after him.
Also on a more hostile planet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want to leave him
potentially hostile planet. So I kind of get it, because like he knows the Empire is still on the planet. If someone Imperial still circles back around, goes through the town, they can take the child.
Yeah.
So that didn't bother me that he was like okay with if you think about it, like he knew he was going to face the Empire with the Mandalorians in the third episode, and that's exactly where he doesn't want the child, because if he dies, he wants the child to be away from the Imperials. Whereas Navarro could potentially be the reverse of that. Right. So I kind of get that point. I agree with Ryan. I think the blue-headed guy is stupid, but I do like that the way that they lowered the volcano thing is the same way that that Ben Kenobi lowered the shields on the Death Star. Oh yeah, it's the same contraption thing with the little move around. I like that.
I had one point. I get that Star Wars isn't using Wilhelm screams anymore. I was bummed. Fanny was bummed because we watched the episodes together.
A very obvious trooper, yeah.
Yeah, they could have totally had, and of course, when the two troopers are trying to like fix the volcano thing, and then the one trooper falls, they both look down and look at each other, and go, "Well, shit."
That was so funny.
You are so correct, because screw J.J. Abrams for thinking that he could invent a new Wilhelm scream.
It's the Willy Ham scream. That's what I'm gonna call it. It's not as good.
So stupid.
It's like 3 times in episode 4. You could have like, "Where's the Wilhelm scream? Why is there no Wilhelm scream?"
Yeah,
I was really hoping that Kathleen Kennedy, after Abrams was no longer steward of the franchise, would just be like, "Okay, you can use the Wilhelm scream again."
What? Can I have one Wilhelm?
Yes.
Yeah, he'll come back. I'm sure Favreau and Filoni are just like, "Can we use the Wilhelm scream?"
I'm pretty sure when Carl Weathers was directing, he was like, "Hey, can we put Wilhelm scream there?" No, we can't. God damn it.
I'm sure. I don't think Carl Weathers cares about the Wilhelm scream. I do think Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau do though.
Oh, I bet they do.
All right.
I'm just thinking of Dave Filoni. Like, what a dream for that guy. Like, the biggest fan in the world, gets to bring all of the characters he created to live action. Like really, in terms of like importance to Star Wars, like it's George Lucas, and then it's the modern. It's Filoni.
It's Filoni.
Filoni.
And you know what? What's really cool is right now, because there's no movies and there's no movies on the horizon, as much as they like to say there are. Mandalorian and Filoni, by extension, are the stewards of this franchise right now. That's incredible that Filoni is just like...
And people are watching the show. Like, it's very popular.
So that's Disney's highest show right now. Disney Plus's highest rated show. It's Mandalorian's beating out everyone else on Disney Plus.
Well, yeah, it's like one of 3 scripted television shows that they have.
Yeah.
I was going to say I do like just Grief in general in this episode the most that I've liked him in the show, because in the previous episodes he's always been like possibly hostile. The Mandos had to walk on eggshells with him. And in this one he's just very like, no, we're good, we're friends, there's no possible deception behind him. Where even up to the finale we weren't certain of him, and I just liked having that dynamic settled.
I like those season 1 characters a lot. I assume, I wonder if they are going to be like the core cast, and like all of like the side characters are just going to be switching in and out as the seasons go on.
Kind of feels like it.
Yeah, like they'll be the core guys.
But we'll see. I don't know when we'll see these two again. This season. We'll see how that comes about. But I did like that shift in dynamic. It felt better. I thought they were written pretty well. I like the whole attack on the base. I thought that was done really well, and as we talked about, like the reveal of, oh, they're doing a thing. Ooh. I thought of something that I was going to bring up in the previous episode when we were talking earlier in this conversation when we were talking about the Watch, that I realized what we might learn, because they are the Watch, if they are tied to Death Watch, is we still might get some play off of what exactly happened with Darth Maul and Crimson Dawn, and if the Watch maybe spilled out of it or even took it away from Maul.
Okay, yeah, because after all that stuff. Yeah.
Right.
Oh
'Cause
man,
at this
yeah.
point, Maul is dead, which means that Crimson Dawn, whatever happened to Crimson Dawn is already done.
And even before he dies, we see him kind of like cast aside
Yeah.
in Rebels.
Yeah.
Which I wouldn't be surprised if you have people in the Mandalorian way decide we're taking this in our own direction, like kind of an FU, and are able to put Maul out of it for whatever reason that they are. And that the Watch is kind of the new evolved version of whatever spilled out of that.
Nothing will make me happier than just to see like another like just a rogue group of Mandalorians who look like Darth Maul doing their own shit. Because like the Death Watch is just so cool. They're the coolest of the cool, you guys.
So we were watching this episode, and it's the hover transport falls off the thing, and Zara looks at me and says, "Why can't it just fly away?" I was like, "Because it's a hover thing." Like, well, wait, what? Why? But what? How does hover work? And they're not like, well, Magnus, like, wait. This is the thing that broke you? There's a beam of light that comes out of a sword that somehow stops for no reason. But this is the thing.
I mean, magnet attraction. It's not like the magnets go from here. It's just they repel just off the ground. Like it's not.
It's Star Wars. It doesn't need to make sense.
It doesn't make sense. It's fake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
hey, man.
People like get really mad about Baby Yoda eating the eggs, and one of the execs had to defend that argument.
I don't want to touch that argument.
I don't know. I just heard it. It was like third hand when I heard this from. I was like, people are getting mad about a fictional alien that doesn't exist.
Nah,
Look,
we eat eggs every day.
Look, they were unfertilized eggs. That's no different than us eating eggs for breakfast.
This sounds like PETA people to me.
My opinion is, if it made you feel a way, you are valid in feeling that way.
There you go.
So the end of the episode, we see Moff Gideon again with his troopers. We kind of touched on them already, but this is kind of the last thing to acknowledge for the episode. So he's sending some big bad boys.
Yes. I'm very curious because like again, like the canon for what those things are from a 1999 PC game, and then they adapted it into something different for Rebels. But this doesn't look like those exact things from Rebels either. So I'm very curious just what they always add something new, like in Fallen Order, like they added like old things back into the new. So I'm like, it's always fun to see what Filoni does with these characters.
Or even their own interpretation of Crate Dragon this season.
Exactly. Yeah.
I do wonder, and I do still think that whatever we're going to see are probably Force sensitive troopers, but I do 100% believe that whatever we're seeing is the precursor to what becomes Snoke.
So the only reason I wonder if they would be Force sensitive is because I don't know how that would have worked, because they've said that they've been failing.
True. You know what? Really, I just want an answer of why those people are wearing Camino and lab coats and are clearly not Camino.
Yeah.
That's what I want to know.
Style.
Maybe they just like that look.
Like, yo, those aliens are sick.
Well, but what I wonder is, did the Empire, because the Empire would have taken over Camino because of the cloning facilities. We know that the clones were shut down after the Empire rose. So did they wipe out the Camino people and just kept their cloning facilities?
Yeah. I mean, if Snoke is a clone, like, that's the clone stuff. Camino.
And if Palpatine still is around out there right now, he was cloned by something.
I hope we don't find out.
That's the one thing. Look, do whatever you want to tell me how Snoke came to be. Fine. Don't go to Exegol. Don't tell me Palpatine's alive right now.
I don't need an Andy Serkis cameo of like, I'm alive. If I see that, I'll cry and I'll be like, all this was for nothing.
All I want.
I trust Filoni more than I trust everyone else at that studio.
I trust Filoni. All I want him to do is be like, this could become Snoke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be.
But
that's all I want.
We're not going to tell you if it is or isn't.
I'm not worried. Yeah. I'm a little worried, but I'm not too worried.
Filoni has proven to be very good at taking things that were underwhelming in live action films and made them great in other works. So we'll see.
Okay.
If he can make me somehow feel better about Rise of Skywalker, great.
Good. You're right.
All right, so that'll do it, I guess. We've exhausted that topic.
We've exegoled it.
Oh boy. Bye. So next time you'll see us, that's 2 weeks, 2 episodes after Thanksgiving. We'll be back with 2 more episodes of Mandalorian. Other than that, hey guys, check out this channel. We make sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel. What's up?
Do you know what the next episode's called?
No.
Do you want to know?
Yes.
Is it the Jedi?
It's called The Jedi. It's
The
called,
Jedi.
It's called,
But, you know,
that's why I'm excited.
We're seeing Ahsoka.
so
God, if you tease us, I swear to God.
So the second they name drop Ahsoka's name in episode 3 is like, oh my god, we gotta get an episode Ahsoka season 4. And the second is Mando
Episode
said,
4?
hey, do you want to go to Navarre? I was like, God damn it, we're gonna have to wait 2 episodes to see Ahsoka.
I never thought we were gonna see Ahsoka right after the name drop. I was prepared for like we're gonna have another episode where he's gonna do another thing, and then we'll probably see Ahsoka.
Same. I was in the same place.
Yeah.
I was like, there's no way that rinky-dink ship is getting all the way to wherever he's got to meet her.
Yeah.
Once I found out what the episode title was called, I'm like, okay, not this one.
And not only that, Dave Filoni is directing the next episode.
Ooh.
Yes. 100%. How long do you think before we get Force Ghost Yoda on the show?
Oh.
I didn't think
Not
about it.
Not this season.
I don't think this season.
I don't think this season either, but I do think eventually.
Once you open the Jedi floodgate, you can literally, because like up until now it's kind of just been
Contained.
a contained people show. You have the baby, but the baby is like a wild card. Once you bring Jedi into it, you can really do whatever you want, which just means anything's possible, baby.
Frank Welker or Tom Kane?
Huh?
Oh,
Not Frank Welker. Frank Oz or Tom
Frank
Kane?
Oz? It'd be Frank Oz.
Frank Oz would do it.
But Tom Kane has done it longer.
Yeah, but Frank Oz would do it.
I
Yeah.
hope so.
With that Disney Plus money, he'll get it.
I don't like Tom Kane anyway, so screw him.
Take that, not Yoda.
He had a thing about Akbar dying in Last Jedi that I just fundamentally disagree with, because I'm like, you're not even the original voice of Akbar. Shut up.
Oh, it's petty. It's petty.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, so make sure to like this video and subscribe to this channel. We got a lot of cool stuff on this channel. We have more Fake Nerds Watch. Hey, you want to see what we thought about the first season of Mandalorian? You want to see what we thought about the first season of Dark Crystal? We got that.
We have a third of a season of Dark Crystal.
Hey, The Boys, Umbrella Academy, Swamp Thing. We got a lot of cool stuff on the Fake Nerds Watch playlist. Also, we have Basement Arcade. October just passed, so we got a lot of cool. We got new content for October.
Spooks.
Any new Fake Nerd Book Club? What's the title called for Fake Nerd Book Club that we're doing?
Char and the gang.
And the gang.
There you go. Little Char and the gang is coming up. We'll probably do that after the Thanksgiving holiday. So, we'll see. Fake Nerd Book Club is our more relaxed show of like, hey, when we can do it, we do it. And then we got other things on the Fake Nerd Book Club that we just wrapped up. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which apparently Kyle Higgins hated doing. So
No, I read it as I did the best that I could with what they allowed me to do.
I did too. It was funny to read though. I like that thread.
Was this recent? Or?
I sent it in the text.
Oh, I didn't get to read it yet. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's a very much the thing of like, I loved working on Power Rangers. Never writing Power Rangers ever again.
That sucks.
Yeah.
But I can kind of understand. I mean, we kind of talked about that in our last episode, that probably there's an amount where I feel like Kyle Higgins was restrained with certain choices.
It very much sounds like that.
And of course, we have our main show, our Fake Nerd podcast, the Mothership Show, the show that we do everything for. We've been doing live quarantine shows. So this one's coming up. It's New Mutants, I guess. So we're doing. Did we decide? New Mutants.
We're doing it.
We're doing it. New Mutants.
Definitely watching that movie.
That will be going out tomorrow, Sparks.
Yeah. What?
So that'll be tonight. New Mutants tonight.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so stay tuned for that. We've been doing live shows for the Quarantine Cast. I'm trying to remember the bit that I do. Maybe that'll end when the quarantine is over. We'll see whenever this quarantine is over. You can support us all the ways, but following us on Fake Nerd Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, fakenerdguys@gmail.com. I'm at BT McClure on Instagram and Twitter. Ben.
I'm at BenMaggot27 on Instagram and Twitter.
Ryan.
I'm at DJ Tony Snark everywhere.
Sparkles.
I'm still waiting for that last minute Ashley Eckstein is actually Ahsoka reveal at Sparks Witty on Instagram and Twitter, SPARKZ Witty.
Me too. And I really want that West Wing Star Wars series now.
Would you accept Rosario live action Ashley Eckstein for the sequel show that's animated? Would you accept it?
Well, yeah.
Okay. Because I'm just saying, like, I just don't like.
I am fine with Rosario being live action Ahsoka. I do not want her replacing Ashley Eckstein.
I don't think they would ever do that.
No, that's I don't fear that either. I just want to say it out loud.
Okay. Until for this 2 weeks from now, this is the way.
It's the